So these two ladies, Jamela Tonstal and Tiffany Hall, grew up together and were friends from children until the moment Jamela passed away. How did she pass away, you might ask? By the time Tiffany was 14, she was already considered to be a delinquent as far as the law was concerned. She even kicked her mother once. Jamela, on the other hand, was constantly moved around from foster home to foster home, so when they met each other as children, they had an immediate connection. As time went on, Jamela went on to have 3 children. Damond, Ivan, and Janila. She'd lost custody of her children for a while, but fought hard to get them back and was successful at doing so. Tiffany had children as well at 16, whose names I won't mention at this time. She couldn't, however, regain custody of her children, and her life took a drastic turn for the worst. It was discovered that Tiffany had been seriously physically abusing her 2-month-old child. The injuries inflicted on the 2-month-old were so severe that by the age of 7, the child still depended on diapers and could hardly speak. Believe it or not, the courts decided to not press charges against her, and she was given back custody of her children. In the meantime, Jamela was trying to get her life together, going to school and taking care of her children. By 2006, she was pregnant once again and looking forward to the new addition to her family. And although Tiffany was still going through her struggles, her and Jamela stayed on good terms. As a matter of fact, Tiffany would still babysit for Jamela's children, and everything seemed good for the time being. On September 16, 2006, Tiffany called the hospital claiming to have just gave birth to a still baby. But when she arrived at the hospital, she refused to be examined. In fact, no one knew she was pregnant except for her boyfriend, who was in the Navy at the time. The doctors couldn't find a reason for the child's death, but couldn't hold Tiffany because there was no proof of any wrongdoing. Tiffany wasted no time in getting her baby buried. But at the funeral, everyone noticed that Jamela was nowhere to be found. But Tiffany's boyfriend was in attendance. He made the trip because he thought that the baby being buried could be his. In the meantime, in between time, people were calling and texting Jamela, trying to see where she was. It wasn't until a couple of days later that Tiffany informed her boyfriend that she had cut the baby out of her best friend. This hit Tiffany's man like a ton of bricks. He immediately began to panic and called the cops. It took no time for the police to find Jamela's body, which was in a field near Tiffany's home. It had been there for 6 days. To make things worse, they found scissors next to her body. This led to the immediate arrest of Tiffany. While in custody, Tiffany confessed to what actually happened. She stated that while hanging out one day, she decided to hit Jamela over the head with a table leg until she was unconscious. Once unconscious, she bound her hands and feet with duct tape. When she cut the baby out of Jamela's stomach, she was still alive. She eventually passed, and Tiffany wrapped her body in a shower curtain and put it in the field near her home. Tiffany was never pregnant. When she called the hospital saying that she gave birth to a still baby, it was Jamela's baby she was speaking of. The worst part of the story, Tiffany drowned each one of Jamela's babies in the same tub that she cut the newborn out of Jamela's stomach in, then stuffed their bodies in the washing machine and dryer. Tiffany was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.